Today's lesson is the dark side of light pollution. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Kiki.
And today we're going to continue talking about light pollution and why it's bad for people as well as animals and the environment. Of course, we're talking about artificial light at night especially. Now, of course, it affects birds when they're trying to migrate from one part of the earth to the other. It also affects people because it interrupts our circadian rhythms, right?
Right. And the circadian rhythm is the internal 24-hour clock in our bodies that controls or regulates when we wake up and go to bed. And it would also affect how we produce or how much we produce melatonin.
Exactly. Of course, that's a hormone that gets released when it starts getting dark outside. But if we have all the lights on and we're still playing with our phones, the melatonin may not come out and we may not get a good night's sleep. So let's continue talking about this very topic. Now we're going to talk about astronomy and the effect that light pollution has on that particular science. Let's listen to the first part right now.
In addition to affecting human health and wildlife, light pollution is starting to have a significant impact on astronomy. The increasingly bright lights of cities, as well as light pollution from low-orbit satellites, are beginning to hinder the observation of stars and other celestial objects, thus making it difficult for astronomers to gather accurate data and make new discoveries. Some are lamenting that in just a few generations, people might even forget what the night sky looked like before sky glow and satellites.
大家好，第一部分我们来介绍名词 satellite， 它的意思是人造卫星或是卫星。例如 Satellites are useful for many things, like GPS, television, radio, and the internet. 人造卫星对全球定位系统、电视、广播和网络等很多方面都有注意。下一个我们看到动词 hinder， 意思是阻碍或是妨碍。例如 The bad weather hindered the rescue efforts. 恶劣的天气阻碍了救援行动。或是 Vincent's injured thumb hindered his ability to type.Vincent 受伤的大拇指有损他的打字能力。再来，我们看到不可数名词 observation， 它有观测或是观察的意思。例如 Close observation of the animals was part of the scientist's experiment. 近距离观察动物是这位科学家实验的部分内容。又或者说 The doctor kept Jason overnight in the hospital for observation. 医生让 Jason 在医院过夜观察。另外，这个字也可以当可数名词，意思是观察资料或是结果。例如 Each student watched the animals at the zoo and wrote down their observations. 每个学生观看着动物园里的动物，并写下他们的观察结果。再举一个例子 Nikki watched the monkeys and wrote her observations in a notebook. Nikki 观看猴子，并将她的观察写在笔记本里。接下来我们看到单字 lament， 它是动词，指的是哀叹或是为……悲痛。例如 Charles lamented that all of his time spent on the rejected proposal was simply a waste. Charles 感叹他在那个被拒绝的提案上花的时间都白费了。或是 Tina lamented the time she wasted watching television instead of studying. Tina 感叹她把时间浪费在看电视上，而不是看书。
Okay, so last time, of course, in our lesson, we talked about how light pollution affects human health and how it affects wildlife. But light pollution is starting to have a significant impact on astronomy. Now, don't confuse astronomy and astrology. Astronomy is the study of stars and galaxies and black holes and physics and things like that. Astrology has to do with telling your fortune by using different constellations, like what's your sign? Oh, I'm a Leo, I'm a Capricorn, or whatever. Oh, that means you have a certain type of personality. That's astrology, but astronomy is the study of the stars. Are you into astronomy, Kiki?
I would love to be more into astronomy, but it's really hard because if you don't have people guiding you and recognizing the different constellations, sometimes I'm not really sure what I'm looking at.
Well, there are apps for your phone that you can download, but then then you'll be looking at your phone, and that will interrupt your circadian rhythm. So, gee, I don't know what to tell you there. Don't you live in Elon? I think there are probably some nice stars there, right?
Yes, and I'm really lucky because where I live, we don't have a lot of artificial light. So at nighttime, when we go up to the roof, we actually see a lot of constellations.
Cool.
But unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a lot of people or anybody guiding me, so I don't know what I'm looking at.
Well, just look at some star charts and you'll be able to figure it out. But again, artificial light or light pollution is having a significant impact on astronomy, the increasingly bright lights of cities, as well as light pollution from low-orbit satellites are beginning to hinder the observation of stars and other celestial objects, thus making it difficult for astronomers to gather accurate data and make new discoveries. This is a long sentence here, so let's take it part by part here. We've got the bright lights of cities that are getting increasingly brighter. It's not getting darker, it's actually getting brighter. And then we've got another source of light pollution from low-orbit satellites. Now, a satellite is something that goes around something else in space, right?
Right. And these satellites, they are constantly collecting information and data and sending it back to us on Earth.
Exactly. And these are low-orbit satellites, which means they're not too far out in space. So they're going to be reflecting sunlight when they pass overhead, especially around dusk or dawn. So if you're an astronomer, you might think, hey, that's a shooting star. It's a meteor. It's a comet. Oh, no, it's actually just a satellite. It's getting in the way of my astronomical observations.
So I guess for astronomers, it's really important for them to know where these low-orbit satellites are too, right, during their research?
Exactly, and they probably also need to know the location of the various space stations in orbit around the Earth as well. Now, these various things, the light pollution from cities and the light from low-orbit satellites, begin to hinder the observation of stars and other celestial objects. If you hinder something, you disrupt it, you get in the way, you interrupt it, and you create difficulties for someone when they're trying to do something. You might hinder the progress of a project at work, for example. If you keep showing up late for meetings, that will hinder the progress of this project, and the boss will be very mad at you.
Astronomers, when they're looking out into the skies, they are observing the different constellations and observing planets and things that are going on in the universe. So making an observation is when you are looking at something and trying to gather information from it. So it's important that astronomers are able to observe or make their observations so they can continue to collect new information and teach us.
Exactly. So they're looking at stars and they're looking at galaxies and planets and things like that, and these things can hinder their observations. And these, of course, are celestial objects. Celestial means having to do with the universe, with the sky. And, of course, these are things that I've described before. Planets, stars, galaxies, black holes, you get the idea. And therefore, thus, it makes it difficult for astronomers to gather accurate data and make new discoveries. So, of course, an astronomer is somebody who studies astronomy. And moving on here, it says, some are lamenting that in just a few generations, people might even forget what the night sky looked like before sky glow and satellites. So that's what some astronomers are lamenting about. If you lament about something, oh, you're kind of sad about it. You express some feelings of grief. Oh, no, it's just not the way it used to be. Things were better before.
And it's sad to think that in just a few generations that this will start to affect kids and how they see the night sky. So a generation is a group of people born of a certain age or from a certain period of time. And another way to describe generation is in your family, you have many different generations. Your grandparents, that's one generation. Your mom and dad, that's another generation. And you and your siblings, that's a third generation.
Indeed. And of course, we're talking also about the social generations like the baby boomers and the millennials and Generation X. Generation Z, etc. Those are different generations, but we're talking about people of different ages, and they might just forget what the night sky looked like before we had this thing called sky glow. And that's what you get if you're in a city and you look up. It's not pitch black up there. It's kind of a light sort of maybe dark blue color or something like that. Maybe a little gray or a little purple. Who knows? But that's what sky glow is. And it's going to be very difficult for you to see planets and constellations and fun things like that.
And with the sky glow, it just happens all the time now whenever we look up in the sky. It just always seems like there's a backlight lighting up the night sky, right?
Exactly. I remember driving between small towns in the country. Every little town in the distance had some sky glow, and it was kind of a way to tell, oh, that's a Superior over there. Oh, there's Terrell over there, because I can see their lights lighting up the sky. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. We will listen first.
Fortunately, there are steps we can take to reduce the impacts of light pollution. Cities can implement policies to regulate the use of outdoor lighting, such as restricting the brightness of lights and limiting the hours that lights may be turned on. And individuals can help reduce light pollution by turning off lights when not in use, using dimmer switches, and choosing outdoor lighting fixtures that are designed to minimize the amount of light wasted.
第二部分我们看到单字 implement， 它是动词，指的是实施或是履行。例如 Simon is implementing a new plan to increase productivity in his company. Simon 在他的公司实施了一项新计划来提高生产力。又或者说 Governments around the world have implemented strong measures to contain the virus. 全球各地的政府都执行了强硬的手段来遏制这个病毒。最后我们看到动词 minimize，指的是最小化或是使点点点减至最低程度。举例来说 The police tried to minimize chaos during the protests. 警方试着把抗议期间的混乱降到最低。最后一个例子 Many scientists believe that reducing the usage of fossil fuels will minimize harm to the environment. 许多科学家认为减少使用化石燃料可将对环境的伤害降到最低。
Okay, now we have some problems here with light pollution. It affects our circadian rhythms and our production of melatonin. It also affects migrating birds and other animals, and it also affects astronomers. So is all lost? Is this a hopeless situation? Well, fortunately, there are steps we can take to reduce the impacts of light pollution. These are things that we can do. They're steps that we can take. Things that we can do all together to reduce all that nasty light pollution.
Cities can implement policies to regulate the use of outdoor lighting, such as restricting the brightness of lights and limiting the hours that lights may be turned on. So the local government or the town government, they can help by making rules or laws to help regulate, to help control how much light is being used. So the word implement is when a person, they will set something in motion, or they will set a rule, or they do something. You implement something. So you're doing something to have another effect come out of it.
Yep, you're just basically putting some kind of decision into effect. You're starting to do something about something, and these cities can have or implement policies that will regulate or control the use of outdoor lighting. And we've got some examples here, such as restricting the brightness of lights and then limiting the hours that lights may be turned on. Some people may not like that if they're working late at the 7-Eleven or something and they want to go home at 2 in the morning and the lights are kind of dim. They might not feel really safe there, but that's a policy that local cities need to think about if they think light pollution is a big problem. But those are some things that they can do. And individuals can help, people like you and me. They can help reduce light pollution by turning off lights when not in use, using dimmer switches, and choosing outdoor lighting fixtures that are designed to minimize the amount of light wasted. So those are some things that we can do. First of all, we can turn off lights when they're not in use. That makes a lot of sense, right?
Right. And a lot of people, sometimes they just leave a light on. They don't think it affects anything, you know. Some people, their parents tell them, oh, turn off the lights because we want to save electricity. But actually, turning off the light is minimizing our use of light pollution or producing less artificial light.
Yeah, people don't really want to turn off lights so much because, well, the price of electricity is pretty cheap, you know, so people don't have much of an incentive to turn off the lights. But we could still do that. And we can also use dimmer switches, which I believe are ways to control the brightness of lights inside your house, right?
Right. And there's a lot of ways to have dimmer switches nowadays. We have smart LED light bulbs now that are connected by your Wi-Fi. So you can actually use your phone's app to dim the light. So when you're dimming the light, you're not completely turning it off. You're just making it from, let's say, 100% and making it to 50% light or however much you want. So it's actually pretty good because you can still choose to have the light on, but you don't have to have it as bright or unnecessarily bright.
Indeed. So that's what a dimmer switch does. And if you've got outdoor lighting, you've got the fixtures or the equipment that has lights outside your house. They can minimize the amount of light wasted. So again, they can probably be less bright in the late hours of the day. Maybe at 2 or 3 a.m. the lights won't be so bright then. You've got these outdoor fixtures that could be automatic. They could have sensors or things like that. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the third part.
In a world where cities are getting brighter, the future of the night sky is becoming dimmer. Only by shining a light on the issue of light pollution can we hope to preserve the natural darkness of the night sky and prevent the harmful impacts of excessive artificial light.
Okay, the third part wraps things up. And in a world where cities are getting brighter, the future of the night sky is becoming dimmer. Okay, so dim there means a couple of things. Dim can mean when the light is not so bright, but it also means kind of a bad situation. You could also describe a person as being dim. Oh, this person is not very bright or not very smart. This person is quite dim.
And actually, this sentence kind of scares me because I would hate to live in a world where the night sky becomes dimmer and becomes darker because in this case, that means we're not going to be able to see stars because of all the artificial light.
Yeah, we won't be able to see the stars and the migratory birds will get screwed up on their flight paths from the north to the south. So that's a big problem, and only by shining a light on the issue of light pollution can we hope to preserve the natural darkness of the night sky and prevent the harmful impacts of excessive artificial light. So we need to shine a light on this issue of light pollution. Shine a light on something has a couple of meanings, right? Literally, it could mean you're shining a light on something so that you can see it in the darkness, but it also means something else.
It also means that we focus or put the light or put the spotlight on the situation so that everyone can pay attention to the issue.
And the issue, of course, is the problem or the concern of light pollution. And only by shining a light on this issue, only by focusing on this issue, can we preserve the natural darkness of the night sky. It's still dark out there. We can still see the stars, but they're getting dimmer and dimmer all the time with all that light pollution. And we can also prevent the harmful impacts of excessive artificial light. So hopefully we've demonstrated to you that light pollution is a problem. A lot of people might think light pollution, who cares about that? I'm more concerned about air pollution or water pollution or noise pollution or things like that. Light pollution, who cares? But hopefully we have told you that this is a concern, especially when we start losing sleep because of it. And that's all the time we have for our discussion for today. Let's turn things over now to Hanny.
各 各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分提到，城市里越来越亮的灯光以及低轨道卫星的光害都开始干扰星星和其他天体的观测。文中是用 observation 来表达观测、观察，它是不可数名词。那它的动词是 observe， 我们来学它的字首字根。看到 serve 这个字根呢，它就表示保存、服务或是留意，确保安全。像 service 我们知道它有服务效劳的意思，那它就是由字根 serve 再加上抽象名词字尾 ice 而来的。那么在 observe 这个字当中呢，它的字首 ob 表示在点点点的上方，那么字根 serve 这个部分表示看管、留意。有人在上方随时留意周遭的动态，应该不难联想到 observe 这个动词，它具有观察、观测或者监视的意思。好，顺便补充两个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 preserve， 它的字首 pre 表示预先，那么 serve 表示确保安全，把它合在一起 preserve 就有保存、保护的意思。第二个补充的是 deserve， 它的字首 de 表示完全，那么字根 serve 表示服务。那么 deserve 这个单字它原本是指说因为服务周到、热心服务而被授予某一种权利，后来才衍生出应得、值得的那种意思。好，那么接着读到课文第三部分最后一句，它写道Only by shining a light on the issue of light pollution can we hope to preserve the natural darkness of the night sky. 唯有阐明光害的问题，我们才有望保护夜空的自然黑暗。好，那这边我们是要介绍说 only 移到句首的用法。Only 当副词呢，它可以表达只有在点点点的时间、地点或是情况。那当它摆在句首的时候呢，后面是可以接介系词片语，就像课文里面它接了 by shining a light 点点点点，或者是接副词子句，像是 only when 或者是 only if 或者是 only after 加主词加动词来做强调。那这时候呢，主要子句的主词跟 be 动词或者是主词跟助动词，他们就必须倒装咯。像有一句话是说 Only in the darkness can you see the stars， 唯有在黑暗中你才能看见星星。那句子里面的 only 后面就是接了介系词片语 in the darkness。 那之后的主要子句呢，我们写到 can you see the stars， 这边就是有将助动词 can 摆在主词 you 的前方，形成倒装。那我们再造个例句， This extreme step should be taken only when it's necessary。 我们先把这个 only when it's necessary 移到句首，然后把主要子句倒装，就会变成 Only when it's necessary should this extreme step be taken。 只有在必要的时候才能采取这种极端的做法。好，那最后补充一下，如果我们的主要子句里面没有助动词的话，那就要根据主词的单复数以及时态，自己就生出一个适当的助动词咯。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Satellite. Weather satellites are used to track weather patterns around the world. Observation. The scientists hoped that close observation of the monkeys would provide valuable knowledge. Generation. Older generations often have different values and beliefs from younger ones. Implement. The hospital implemented the changes gradually to make certain that they were effective. Minimize. Sheldon checked his math twice to minimize the possibility that he had made an error. Issue. Climate change is a major issue that requires immediate attention.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, do you think that light pollution has had any impact on your life? Why or why not?
I actually do think light pollution has impacted me because I've had to go through a long period of insomnia. So I couldn't go to sleep at night and my circadian rhythm was all messed up. I didn't know when to go to sleep, or I knew that it was time to go to bed, but I would lay in bed for hours and hours and I just could not sleep. So clearly it really affected my melatonin levels and I was having a really bad time every time I woke up, I just felt like I wasn't getting enough sleep.
Well, personally, I don't think my life has been impacted by light pollution too much because I'm aware of this problem and I try to keep the lights dim at night so my body knows it's getting close to bedtime. And also, I just know that if I really want to go out and see the galaxy or see planets and stars, all I gotta do is go to Nanto because light pollution is not a big problem there. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.